Welcome to Modesto Area Spotlight.
Hi, I'm Deborah Dupre. Welcome to Modesto Area Spotlight. Today I'm interviewing Lynette Scott, executive producer of Equator Productions. She's written a new book called Welcome Back, the Monarch Butterflies to the Central Valley. We're going to be talking to her today. Lynette, tell us a little bit about your background and what it is that you do here.
Well, I came from Australia, I was raised in Australia, and then I went to New Zealand where I married and raised my children. As a registered nurse, it's easy to get a job where you are. And then in the 90s, hospitals recruited in New Zealand to bring people over here. So I've been here as a nurse, but now that I'm retired, and I went to do a visit down at Santa Cruz area where they had the butterflies, and they were telling us how even though they're plentiful again there, they're not in the Central Valley. And so that was the purpose of my book. So I've grown a lot of milkweed, and now I've written the book to encourage people to grow milkweed.
So Lynette and I did a one-to-one meeting a year and a half ago, and we sat down and we were here in the studio, and I was doing the You Matter show, and she was telling me that she wanted to write a book on the monarch butterfly. Here we are, a year and a half later, we have the book, and we're going to go through the book today. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to show you some of the photos that she took. Her husband, Jim Scott, is a photographer, and in the book you will see beautiful pictures, and I really like to highlight this picture right here where she's got this butterfly pin in her hair, but it's not a pin. Why don't you tell us about how this picture got started?
Yeah, on our way back from a trip, we went to Mississippi, and somewhere in Arizona, I was trying to find out the name of the place. There's a butterfly sanctuary. It's like a big glass house, so if anybody knows it, please contact me, because I couldn't find it on the web. But we were there, and I was fascinated, of course, by all the butterflies, and my husband had his camera, and he took that shot. So it looks like a hairpin, but it actually is a real monarch butterfly. And in actual fact, we'll be talking about it later, but that one, it's hard to tell from here whether it's a male or female.
I think that one, from what we talked about, well, we'll get to that, because
Yes,
that's one
yes.
of the quiz questions that,
Yes,
that she's got for you. So we have a little quiz, so get your pen and paper ready, because we're going to ask you some questions about the monarch butterfly. So this is also telling us about a map that you put together with this photo,
Yes.
and a monarch in the Central Valley. There seems to be some kind of problem with the migration or bringing that butterfly back to the Central Valley of California. Right. So she mapped it and pinned it on the map for you in the book. And it basically says here, the Central Valley is a very large area in California between the coastal and Sierra ranges. It is the San Joaquin Valley and Sacramento Valley combined. Their migration pattern has been upset by the increase in agriculture and the loss of milkweed. So You'll see here on the table, we have some milkweed. This is what the monarch butterfly eats. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the milkweed?
Okay, so the milkweed, there's different sorts of milkweeds, and it's not a plant you want in a vase because it is toxic for the butterfly. It makes the butterfly toxic, so it doesn't really have a nice perfume. But as you can see by the photo in the envelope, or this one here,
Okay.
it's a very pretty flower, but it grows in stalks. But what happens is it grows these. Have you seen this? This is seed pods.
So this is a seed pod right here.
And this is a seed pod right here, which will blow like a dandelion once it's... So there's hundreds of seeds in one pod. So it doesn't take a lot to get them growing. As you can see, the bowl over there, put those down, and the bowl over there, that's grown from seeds. So that's how that works.
So the seeds from the seed pod are what created these.
Yes.
And then they eventually look like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the moment the frost has got to them, but they're very pretty once they're all flowering.
Yeah.
And then you get more and more seeds. But you can also, it takes a bit, some will die off, but you can just bury the plant and it'll grow again.
So what is the purpose? I know your purpose, your mission is to actually get more people involved in the milkweed, to plant it in their yard,
That's right.
to include the butterfly caterpillars that come back to the Central Valley.
Right.
So if you can get some of these seed pods and some of this milkweed to grow, Lynette would encourage everyone out there to get milkweed and start planting it around your garden, because it's going to help not just the butterfly, but there's also these other insects.
They're other pollinators that you'll probably see in your garden.
So the pollinators are the bumblebees, the praying mantis, and the dragonflies. So you'll see there's other insects that also survive on the milkweed.
No, they don't survive on the milkweed, but when you have the nectar flowers, what I learned, because I grow a whole lot of milkweed, is you also need nectar flowers, ones that smell nice and have plenty of nectar, and that's where the other pollinators come in on that, because they need the nectar as well of other flowers. But the monarch butterfly specifically, its growth is on the milkweed. It lays its eggs, and then the caterpillar eats the milkweed, and then the milkweed makes them toxic to the birds, so then they don't get eaten by birds because they don't like the taste.
Nice. So that's a protective barrier.
And as you can see, there's two milkweeds. This is an orange one. The other one I've found harder to transplant, but I do have a garden when it grows up. But I haven't got it at the moment.
So
it's
this is
a very pretty flower.
This is the other flower here,
and the
this
bumblebees do love that one.
And this is the milkweed here. So there are two kinds.
Yeah, and it also comes purple, but I haven't got
this
that
one's
one.
kind of a lavender color. Yeah, it's pretty. Okay. And then these are some of the other flowers that come in. Varieties of the nectar flowers are also needed in the garden to attract the monarch butterfly. They also like rocks on which to rest and puddles to cool off. Milkweed is the only plant that the monarch caterpillars eat. You did talk about that. And there are several varieties of milkweed, and others are yellow and purple. Monarch butterflies lay their eggs under the milkweed leaves, and we haven't seen any plants, have you? So these are the other pollinators, the other kinds of flowers that you could also put in your garden. If you're looking to help us bring the monarch back to the Central Valley, you could also plant these other kinds of flowers in your yard. Let's talk about the caterpillar.
Yeah.
So we don't have a caterpillar, but we have an artist on J Street. Her name is Barbara Alvarado.
Yeah.
She owns the Art Studio for Life and is a very good friend of both of Lynette and mine.
Yeah.
She painted this painting for the book of the caterpillar and the chrysalis and the monarch butterfly coming out of the chrysalis. So tell us a little bit about this, how you engaged Barbara to get involved in this painting and this project.
Well, what it is Barbara loves the dragonfly, and that's what she called her business. And I loved going there because she has what they call paint and pour, and you do this painting. Go and see her. She's on J Street in Modesto. And so I asked her would she be interested in painting it, and because she's also a teacher of young children, she was just really keen to help. And I love what she did, so that's why I put it in the book rather than not have anything at all. Because in the years that I've been doing this, I've seen 3 butterflies over time, but I haven't seen any eggs, and that's why we need more. And so if you do know anybody who's got caterpillars or chrysalis in abundance, I'd be welcome, and I'd give you a book in exchange.
Okay, so a book for caterpillars or milkweed for caterpillars,
Yes,
right?
yes.
We have food for the caterpillars if you have some.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got other plants that are getting eaten that I don't want eaten by some insects. But nobody's eating the milkweed
Nobody's
yet.
eating the milkweed, and that's what we're here for. We really want them back.
Yes.
So, yeah, Barbara over at the Dragonfly, she's on 1210 J Street in Modesto. I teach out of her studio. I teach
Right.
Reiki. And I would highly encourage you, if you like to paint, draw, or just do a paint pour or have a party and hang out, go down there and check it out. She does all kinds of live music on Friday nights, and she does classes, and you would have a good time down there. So, once they go through their life cycle, from a little pinhead size of off-white egg, they hatch into a yellow, black, and white caterpillar that grows and grows. Then they turn into a pretty green and gold chrysalis hanging off a leaf or a branch. And through their metamorphosis, after a time, they become a beautiful orange, black, and white butterfly. So this is kind of like how we go through life, right?
Yeah.
We start out as a little tiny thing, and then we kind of go along and we wonder where we're at and what we're doing. And then we sprout wings and we fly and we learn how to be
Yeah.
better human beings. That's part of what I teach in Reiki, is how to get you from a caterpillar to a butterfly.
Right. And if
So-
you want to learn more about what she's talking about, although she's making reference to the book, she has a show called You Matter that you can see on our YouTube, MyTV26 YouTube.
Thank you. Yep. And it's also on my website, youmatter.host. You can go watch them out there as well. Go to myTV26 or youmatter.host. All right, so since we planted milkweed in our garden, we have seen 3 monarch butterflies. So June 2016, it sat on a tall milkweed and flew around the backyard. So tell me about the first one you saw in June of
Yes,
2016.
that was the tall milkweed that we grew,
Mhm.
and it was so exciting when we first saw it. We thought, oh great, because it was only a couple of years after we planted it.
Mhm.
So we just watched it, and Jim took photos of it, of course, and that's what's in the book.
Beautiful. So then the next one you saw, and then you didn't see any more till September 2019.
That's right.
So what happened in September 2019?
Well, by then I had some planted in the front, and then we saw one flying around, and we just got a photo. They're pretty kind of, you can see how they kind of, you can hardly see them on the plant. So, but we were lucky to see them, and it's fun to watch them. They actually fly around quite a bit. So they also had some yellow swallowtails. There's a couple of butterflies that you can think are monarchs that aren't, and they were there too, but that was just 1 year.
So 1 year you gave a plant to a friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and we took it over to the house, and I was over there, and
Yeah.
literally a butterfly flew up to the back patio door,
Really?
and she
Wow.
planted it and put it, because it was in a bucket of water. You gave
Yeah,
it to us in a bucket
yeah.
of water, and then she went outside and put it in the dirt,
Mm-hmm.
and then a monarch flew up to the door. And that was a year you didn't see anything, because that was
Yeah.
in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to fast forward. That was the second one you saw. It was 2016 to 2019. For 3 years, they didn't see anything.
Yeah.
2020, I saw one based on the one you gave my friend.
Right.
And then you didn't see one again till 2021.
Right.
So tell us about, excitingly in 2021, you were able to video the 3rd butterfly visiting the milkweed. And here are 3 stills of that video. So tell me about that one.
Yeah, that was really exciting because it was closer together, so I felt confident. And this was before we heard anything about how they're all coming back to Santa Cruz area. I have my thoughts on that. I'm wondering if they even migrated north this last year with all the wildfires and why they might have built up. But it flew, and it flew around the tree. We have a big tree, over to the neighbours and back, and then I thought I'd lost it, and then I came back out a little later and it was on the same milkweed. And this time, because the first time I tried to video it, they're not easy to video, they're so little, and then they fly so bigly, but I did get a small video on my phone, so that was fun.
Wow.
watch.
So
Yeah.
so literally, yeah. So literally, you planted this milkweed around the front of your property, and then just waited and watched
Mm-hmm.
for any movement of them.
The same day, or pretty close to that same time, a hummingbird came and
Yeah.
it hovered at my chest level.
Oh.
That was surprising because we have hummingbirds. Yeah.
So hummingbirds in the animal totem kingdom mean
Mm.
you have the strength and the ability to go long distances. And you, my dear,
I
have
didn't know
gone
that.
a very long distance runner marathon. Why don't you
Yeah.
tell us about your marathon this last year?
Well, I'm slow at what I do, and it's triathlons that I love. And I'd hoped one day to do an Ironman, so I started doing Modesto marathons, which is a great one to do if you want to get started. But they do have the smaller runs. Don't just try and do a marathon. So I did all 10 of those. But instead of getting faster, I got longer.
Yeah, but you've
So,
been through
but
a
I
big
did them.
ordeal, and
Yeah.
for all of that, you still went
Yeah.
out and did a marathon.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm pretty like, wow, this person here has got the strength of that hummingbird for sure.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting because I didn't know that.
yeah, hummingbirds can fly great distances.
Mhm.
They go from South America on a migration up to North America and up to
So
Canada.
they basically follow a similar migration pattern to the butterfly,
To the
the
butter-
monarch butterfly.
But it's interesting that the butterflies stayed in Santa Cruz and didn't come here. So what's in Santa Cruz that we don't have?
Yeah, yeah.
Besides the ocean and the good chowder, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's could be the fires. It could be
Yeah.
the wildfires that kept them away. They
And the
stayed-
agriculture. I went to, what's it called? Is it Natural Arches, I think it's called, over at Santa Cruz area.
Mhm.
And they were the ones who, that's where I got inspired. And they said that the agriculture has also caused a lot of it because they cut up, whereas there would have been milkweed growing wild, which you don't see any.
We don't
milkweed.
see it growing
Growing
wild
wild.
anywhere.
But
Oh.
places where they're now encouraging them, over east, they tend to migrate down over east
Mhm.
because I've seen some information on that.
Mhm.
They put them in their gullies and stuff like that.
Mm.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I have a friend here in town who's got a plant in her backyard. She says she sees the little caterpillars, so maybe we can get you some
Yes,
caterpillars this year. And if you out there, our listening audience, have any caterpillars, please reach out to Lynette and let her know if
Yeah.
you've seen any in your yard.
Because
So,
what they do, once you do have some, they do come back. But we haven't had enough to make it happen.
well, once they turn to butterflies, they come back to that spot to
Yes,
have the eggs, to have the
Yes.
caterpillars
Right.
and more.
They fly.
But you're just not getting that
Mhm.
return generation
That's right.
to return back. So, does anybody out there, you got your pen and paper ready? We're going to do the quiz now. Do you remember what are the monarch butterfly's colors? Oh. So there's a little graph here, and you can select what you think they are. So you can see I have the earrings on today. So
Yeah.
what are our colors? We have red, orange, and white, and black.
Mm-hmm. They're orange and white
Right,
and
black.
Yes.
Okay. And what are the monarch caterpillar colors?
Yes.
So does anybody remember what are the caterpillar colors?
And they're yellow, black and white.
And they're yellow, black, and white. Did you know that in the wintertime, if your caterpillar has more black on it, it means it's going to be a really cold winter.
Really? No,
And
I
if
didn't
it
know
has black, if it has more yellow on it, it's going to be a mild winter.
that. Oh, that's interesting to me. Actually, there is so much about butterflies. I was watching a program,
Uh-huh.
and they are now trying to mimic the quality of butterfly wings, not just the monarch, for like out in space and for reflecting or protecting.
So
and
NASA's
lots of other
involved.
things.
So you got NASA involved in the butterfly movement.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they're making maybe the shape of the wing to reflect the
No, that's what the
radiation.
wing is made of.
Oh,
because
really?
they repel. It's a repellent.
It's a repellent of the radiation
The
from
water and the water.
oh,
Everything.
the moisture.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. We'll have to go look that up. So Google Monarch butterfly
And you can learn a lot more
and learn some
than
more.
what I have in the book.
And what are the Monarch chrysalis colors? Does anybody remember that?
Right. And that's green and gold. Little gold dots around the brim.
Green and gold.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have all flowers of all colors to help attract the monarch butterfly. And do you remember what plant the monarch butterfly needs in your garden?
Yeah, and of course, that's the milkweed.
That's the milkweed.
So,
But tell us, because there's something that's not in the book that we
right.
want to talk about. So how do you know the gender of your butterfly? So let's
Right.
talk about that, because
Right.
that might actually be another book you have coming out.
Right.
Why don't you
right.
tell us about your secondary project to go along with this one?
Well, I'd like to do a colouring book because there's more photos. This photo is mostly taken from our garden, so which my husband did. But there's also, then after I got the book together, I found some more photos that actually show you a male and a female that we had done where the first photo was done. And the female butterfly has thicker black lines on its wings, and if you look, the male butterflies have little black dots and thinner black lines. So you can pretty well tell just by looking at it. You know, you'll see them flutter and like that. And if you just look closely down at the bottom.
So
See,
the
this-
one on the cover looks like a female
Yeah, it's a female.
with it has the thicker black lines in here, and there's no dots.
Mm-hmm.
But the dots would be where on the male?
About here and here on the bottom
On
wing.
the two bottom wings, you'd see
Yes.
two dots, a dot here and a dot here, and thinner
Yes,
black lines. All right.
Right.
So, Lynette, this book is absolutely beautiful. I look forward to the color book you're going to do.
Right.
Now, where did you get this book printed at?
Well, what I did was I worked with Kim and Sue. We co-partnered as part of Gold Star at a referral club, and she helped me put it together. I had all the photos and everything, and then she helped me put it together with the texts that I had written. And so if you're interested, like Jim has lots of nature photography, so if you're creative, you can make your own book on stories that you can make from his photos, or you can do it with your own, and then Kimmer would work with you. Vision Graphix is her business, so that's...
So Kimmer's on 2020 Coffee Road, Vision Graphix.
Mm-hmm.
She does all kinds of things. She does calendars, she does business cards, she does flyers,
Yes.
all kinds of things. And she helped put this book together and make it come to life. If you also want to do a book yourself, Jim Scott Photography, like she said, has the photos, and Kimmer could help you put a book together. So tell us, where can we get this book?
So if you go to my Facebook, you can contact me on Messenger at this moment, but I will be putting it on. I also have a book, Facebook page for Across the Equator Productions, where I'll be putting it on.
Great. So we can go there, we can get this beautiful book, and you can help Lynette with her cause to bring the monarch butterfly back to the Central Valley.
Because that's the main purpose of doing this. You can find lots of information and get the free milkweed from lots of other places that are much more involved with this. My purpose is for the Central Valley. But you can still do all this if you live in another area. So don't let that stop you. This was just specifically, I wanted to bring attention to the Central Valley.
Right. Great. So I look forward to your coloring book.
Right.
I look forward to people out there bringing this monarch back to our Central Valley. And if you have any questions about anything here, we will put it in the links below. You'll be able to check there, like, subscribe. And thank you, Lynette. It was really great seeing you and doing this book with you today. Thank you.